Hey everyone, Matt here with the Relief Valve podcast, just showing you some of the numbers here from the GOP tax and spending cut here. You're seeing these numbers, and this is pretty accurate. It ended up being 217 to 215. All Republicans voted yes. All Democrats voted no against the American people. Let's get into this a little bit here so we're clear. The vote cleared the way to enact major elements of President Trump's domestic agenda and escalated a bitter fight among Republicans over what federal programs to shrink to finance and to finance major tax cuts. I believe this also included the no tax on tips that Trump promised. In fact, somebody had written this here: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. Keep something in mind: the Democrats voted 100% against this. If anyone has been unclear up to this point that the Democrats are against the American people, against your family, and against this country, and you're just walking in the door and you're not 100% clear about it, take a look at this vote that I'm showing you right now. I'll continue. The nearly party line vote of 217 to 215 teed up a bitter fight within the GOP over which federal programs to slash to partially finance a huge tax cut that would provide its biggest benefits to rich Americans. That's not true. This is what bullshit. This is the New York Times, of course. So they're slanted towards, it's a Democrat propaganda machine. They didn't cut it to give it to rich people. All of this helps the working class. So according to the New York Times, the ultra rich are us working class that are struggling to survive. Interesting take, New York Times. Approval of the budget plan was a crucial first step for Republicans to smooth the way through Congress for an enormous fiscal package using a process called reconciliation, which allows such bills to steer clear of a filibuster and pass the Senate on a simple majority vote. It's a sort of the kickoff, and what will be a four-quarter game, and a very important, very consequential game begins as soon as we get this thing passed, Speaker Mike Johnson said at a news conference on Tuesday morning ahead of the vote. This has been necessary because we promised to deliver Trump's full agenda, not just a part of it. We're not just going to do a little bit now and return later for the rest. We have to do it now. It almost didn't happen. In the minutes before the vote on Tuesday evening, Republican leaders could be seen button-holding on deflectors on the House floor, imploring them to support the budget resolution. Some Republicans wanted even deeper cuts that were already happening here. That's the reason they were holdouts. When it appeared their efforts had fallen short, they announced there would be no vote on the plan Tuesday night, and lawmakers quickly filed off the House floor. But minutes later, Mr. Johnson ran back into the chamber, yelled one more, and called lawmakers back for the vote. In the end, Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky was the sole no vote in his party, a group of centrist Republicans from competitive congressional districts who had initially balked at the plan over concerns that it would lead to deep cuts to Medicaid, which provides health care to more than 70 million Americans, ultimately fell in line and voted yes. Another of the holdouts, Representative Victoria Spartz of Indiana, who originally said she would oppose the plan because it would add to the deficit, said she received a personal commitment from Mr. Trump to save health care and make it better. House Republicans moved Congress closer to delivering on President Trump's full America First agenda, not just parts of it, Mr. Johnson said after the resolution passed. He told reporters that Mr. Trump's involvement was a big help in getting most Republicans on board. The blueprint set the contours for the legislation the House Republicans will now turn to writing. It puts a $4.5 trillion upper limit on the size of any tax cuts over the next 10 years, but does not dictate which taxes should be reduced, a complex and politically tricky question of its own that could take months to sort out. It also calls for slashing $2 trillion in spending over the same period, without specifying which programs should be cut, though top Republicans have targeted Medicaid and food programs. That's not necessarily true. They've targeted some of the abuse within the programs, especially welfare, EBT, and etc. The ones that sit on their ass and do nothing while collecting is what they're targeting, not the shutdown of the entire program. So this article is misleading. So it's some blowhard drones on with his self-important garbage. So this is all good for helping to push forward Trump's agenda and help the middle class working. No tax on tips. That's a promise that he made. Comrade Kamala tried to echo that in her own campaign and pretending that it was her idea. It was Trump's originally and all along. And now imagine being a server and not having. Now I imagine some of you probably don't necessarily claim all of your tips, right? Or maybe an adjusted amount, maybe, but now you can very legitimately say, and without that monkey on your back, All of these are 100% mine. All of these tips are mine. I don't have to claim nothing as like this, almost like an independent contractor that has to file my this money that I'm making. You don't have to worry about it. It's all yours now. And that's what Trump promised. No tax on overtime. Another great thing, no taxes on getting that Social Security payment. So for everybody present and in the future, when this officially kicks in, your Social Security is not being taxed, and you should be. This is the money you earn from working hard throughout your entire life. Now, the Democrats have stepped up, and they have voted unanimously no for this. Unanimously no to help the American people. I started the show in order to, for my frustration as a taxpayer, my frustration about the lying legacy media, blatantly lying to my face, and I knew that they were doing it. And getting tired of yelling at my wall and yelling at the sky and wanting to get my voice out there, especially in following this every day and learning the ins and outs of this bullshit and wanting to share it with other people so you can empower and educate yourself about what's going on as well. These Democrats are liars. They're cheaters. They steal your money. They abuse it and misuse it. And it's important for the American people to know and stand up and fight back. And we did when we got Trump into office. And now, after getting that huge win and getting wins like this right now is not the time to sit back on our laurels and say, well, we won the fight. I can get back to life now and go back to maybe minding my own business. Unfortunately, we can't do that. The Democrats and the left-wing machine are already lying. They're already pushing their twisted agenda. They won't give up on it. And they're already trying to still do their best to screw over the American people. So now is the time to not become complacent. The Democratic Party politically needs to be destroyed. And something new needs to rise up from it that is actually a reasonable alternative for the taxpayers, so you can have the consideration of a Republican Party and then maybe a second party or even a third party that isn't completely screwing you over and stealing all of your money. So kudos to Republicans for coming together and getting this done, keeping promises and keeping Trump's promises to help the working middle class. I don't know why these morons at the New York Times are saying this helps the ultra rich. Everything that's laid out right here is helping the working middle class. It's only the liars in the legacy media and the liars and propagandists of the New York Times that are the ones that telling you that what happened right here in voting for you was bad. I remember I used to think it must suck to be in Russia. It must suck to be in North Korea. The propaganda news that they have in those countries, it's awful. It's literally there's no truth is spoken to you. Any information they give about other countries are absolutely lies and deceit, and to keep the people of their country complacent, thinking that they live in the best place on earth. It's really great, and their government is fighting for them. And then thinking at one point years ago, I'm so glad that we don't have that here, that we actually have freedom of communication and sharing of ideas and experiences and real information. And it comes to find out that we have our own propaganda machine here. We absolutely have our own government-controlled or government influence, certainly, propaganda machine here right in the United States. And it's the written word, it's the New York Times and the New York Post and all these other shit newspapers that lie to you. It's the legacy media, MSNBC, CNN, and others that all lie to you on a daily basis. You see Joy Reid crying because she lost her show. Oh, I can't lie to anybody anymore. My show had value. Yeah. As a lying propaganda machine in order to deceive the American people. That's what it was. And that's why content creators like myself and the others that have huge numbers, right in the millions, are doing so well, because the American people have turned to them as real alternatives to getting the information instead of getting screwed over by the fake legacy media and liars like the New York Times that I just read to you. So kudos to the Republicans for getting this done and helping the working class. Please like, share, support the show. Thank you to all the new members, and we'll talk to you again.